Fantasy Football Tips Podcast with Mills, JP, Quigliano, and Cliff.
Hello, you're listening to FantasyFootballTips.co, the podcast, in association with Premier Punt, the home of daily fantasy football betting. My name's Mills, and I'm joined this week by Cliff and JP, the voice. Hello, gents.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good to have you back, Cliff. Where have you been? Have you had a baby? That was Quigliano's excuse. No Quigliano this week. What's your excuse, mate?
I was just busy last week, Mills. Just the 1 week I've missed. But yeah, I'm back
feels
this
like
week.
longer. Feels like longer.
Sorry, Mills.
Oh, I think it's because you've been missed. I think you've developed quite a following amongst the fans, Cliff.
Oh, cheers. How's FPL? Was it Notorious McGregor? How's he doing?
We'll come on to that later. We've had quite a bit of banter on Twitter this week between various people. Got a few new fans, super fans we might call them. May even overtake the mighty Sushant. So we'll see. Well, I'll come on to that later. Lots to talk about this week. Lots to talk about. We've got plenty of tips coming up. Obviously, we've got Podcast Extra coming up later on for the premium members as well. And very happy to say so many of them took advantage of the Black Friday special offer last week. So lots more fans coming in to listen to the Podcast Extra this week, hopefully. If they make it that far, that is. JP, things were on the up for you a little bit this week. You even outscored me.
Yeah, good week. A much better podcast for myself last week. I think it was one of the best podcasts of the season, actually. Sorry to say that, Cliff. You know, it's been an improvement after a shabby week. It's been better, much better.
I mean, thoughts on that, Cliff? He's saying the podcast was phenomenal without you. I mean, let's be honest. The week before it was a shambles because of JP when he suggested Ibrahimovic as a long shot when he was suspended.
Yeah, JP stitched me up on that week, but it was a good one. I listened last week. I do listen when I'm not on, and I listened last week. It was a good podcast. A few dubious tips. I mean, the Gary of the week never come in, but we'll let the God complex off with that one.
I mean, the rumours will be flying around that Quigliano has been sacked after captain. Well, not sorry. He suggested that he was going to captain Aguero. That was in the Podcast Extra. He did Gary KDB. And at the last minute, he actually captained KDB himself, so he ended up with 2 points off KDB as captain. When he actually went on air and said, and I might even put this in actually as a little playback, the clip from last week, when he suggested that he could sleep at night if he captained Aguero, and that he had to captain Aguero, and he went completely against his own advice, so it was a shame.
Well, the one thing that stood out for me, Sushant, who's been the biggest Quigliano fan, put Negredo in, and he kind of questioned him on that, and then he goes and scores 2 goals and gets 3 bonus points in a week. So I think maybe Quigliano needs to give Sushant an apology there, maybe. I don't know. Perhaps.
We will see. Okay, so JP, let's go for some tips then. The honour falls with you this week.
Yeah, let's hope I don't make any foolish mistakes again. Fingers crossed.
Well, let's see what happens. Have you got anything for us, gentlemen? Come on, I mean,
absolutely. You normally introduce which one we're going for. You see, normally you say at this point, "Who's your Gary of the week?" But I will do it myself. No.
I just want to add some context to that. Then, as you sort of attacking me, JP, we've just had to put this podcast on hold for 5 minutes while you pay your electricity bill. So, did the meter run out or something? You completely cut off from us. Well, I was going to seamlessly edit it together, but as you want to go on the attack, bring it on.
Well, I apologise for the fact that the Wi-Fi connection is weak in the rural area of Penkridge. I do apologise for that. Okay. Just told people where I live as well, but that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Population of 35, so...
I'm an open book. No, but on a serious note, let's get down. Yes, Cliff.
On a serious note, you don't even live in that area anymore?
Well, then we're fine, aren't we? Got no problem.
Okay, right.
We can tell you don't anyway, so right.
Do you know what? This is we've gone from heroes to zeros. I think this is the worst podcast of all time.
Mate,
so
I'm presuming you're editing all this bit out.
We'll see.
This is shock.
Time shall tell.
Let's move on. Give us a Gary of the week, JP.
Gary of the week this week is Harry Kane. Several reasons. First of all, playing Swansea, who recently conceded 4 goals to Crystal Palace. That is a leaky, weak side. Spurs look okay. They lost against Chelsea, but they played very, very well in the first half. I think Harry Kane's nailed on for a goal. I could see it being one of those games where he really fires and gets himself a hat-trick.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I have to agree with that. And I'm going to put this out there now, actually. I was going to save this podcast extra. I have actually sold Aguero this week to get Kane in my team. We'll talk
That's
more.
brave.
We will talk more about that later. But that is what I've done, so I 100% back that. Have you got a long shot for us?
Well, we were having a good chat about this, and Cliff came out with a long shot. Now, it is very long, but quite frankly, the longer the better sometimes. That's what I've heard anyway. And we're going to go with Gaston Ramirez. Plays for Middlesbrough, if people don't know. Good attacking midfielder, gets up the pitch very high. I like that as an option. I think has he got a couple of goals this season? Probably 1 or 2, I would have thought. And he gets himself a couple of assists. Middlesbrough have impressed me. They're good defensively. I'm pleased with that shout from Cliff. I think that's a good one. So we're going to go with Gaston Ramirez this week.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got a decent fixture as well at home to Hull.
Yeah,
I should have mentioned that.
Yeah, I think that is the key, isn't it? I mean, he's had 1 goal and 2 assists all season, so he's not been firing, on all cylinders. But you never know. It's a long shot for a reason. And at £5.2 million, 5.3 million, you can't go too wrong with that, can you? So, and the fixture does stand out as a really good fixture. The dealia, then, I think I might have an inkling where you're going with this one, JP.
Yeah, well, again, we were unanimous on this, weren't we? I mean, we spoke about it before the podcast. We're going to go with Romelu Lukaku, a guy that is wildly inconsistent. He has phases where he scores goal after goal after goal, and then he'll have a phase where he annoys the heck out of everyone and doesn't score for 3 weeks, and he's in one of those phases at the moment. He needs some goals. People put him in the team. He's an expensive player, and you want to be able to back him. I've lost trust in him. I very rarely trust him because of his inconsistencies. It's time for him to prove what he's worth to those people who keep on trusting him. Get yourself some goals this week.
Okay, good stuff. Side tips then?
Yeah, well, I think it's nice for us to actually alternate tonight because, like I say, you and Cliff are giving out some really nice options. So, Cliff, I'm going to go to you first with your first side tip, please.
Thank you, JP.
You're welcome.
The first side tip I mentioned earlier beforehand was Rondon for West Bromwich Albion. Nice fixture at home to Watford. I do think West Brom seem to be scoring a few more goals than people. I know it was in the one game against Burnley, but they do look a little bit more attacking. I know they get a lot of stick from the home fans, especially under Pulis, but I think they're not so defensively at the minute. I think they can go there and score goals, so I think Rondon's a good shout.
Yeah, I like that. I like that one.
Yeah, I spoke to someone that went to that game, that 4-0 Burnley game, and just before he went to the kick-off, and I said to him, have fun. It was a dreadful night weather-wise. I thought he was going to have a dreadful old night, but he had an absolute belter of a game to watch, and I agree with that. I think West Brom as well have proved that they can do it, and Watford is a bit inconsistent at the moment, so you never really know what you're going to get with them. So potentially a good shout there. Yeah, like it.
Well, I mean, for the same reason, I'm going to actually side tip Macaulay, the centre-back, because I'm getting annoyed by how many points people are getting from this player. He's getting some clean sheets here and there, and he's getting goals. And against Watford, it's a good chance maybe get him in your team if you've got someone at the back who's not playing well or not getting you points. Maybe put him in. I mean, he's an option for sure. I was thinking about it myself, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he's been transferred in by the thousands at the moment. I think he's in the top 5 most transferred in players this week.
Wow.
So lots of people taking note of that and probably looking at the fixture this week as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about Spurs recently with Gary, with Harry Kane, but I think there's other options there. I mean, I don't know if you saw Eriksen's goal against Chelsea, but it was an absolute corker. And could that be the time where he kicks on a little bit with confidence? So you could go for an additional, attacking midfielder in someone like Eriksen at Tottenham. Cliff, your next option, please.
I mentioned him a couple of weeks back, Jermaine Defoe for Sunderland. I know that they're struggling at the bottom of the league, but he's a proven goal scorer again. I've mentioned it. So he was my next option. Mills, any from you today?
No, I'm literally just playing host today. I think I gave you all those options before we came on and stop there.
Ooh,
no,
well,
I have got one, and mine is going to be a player that I tipped last week, and I'm going to say it again, Charlie Austin, away at Crystal Palace. I think Crystal Palace they just looked dreadful. We talked about their form last week. It has just hit a new low, having lost 5-4 at Swansea. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. Their defence just goes from one low to another. And Charlie Austin, a little bit lucky with the goal that he scored last week against Everton, but actually he could have had more. He was really involved in the game, and he lasted the majority of the game as well, which was good to see. I just think up against that Palace defence, he's the perfect striker to profit from that. So I see some good potential there for Charlie Austin.
Yeah, agreed. He's a goal machine, isn't he? Absolute goal machine, that man.
He absolutely is. Okay, gents, does that wrap up the side tips? I think there's plenty there for people to get their teeth
That
into.
That does. I'm happy with that. I think we've shared that as well. Kind of like taking the load on together, which is nice.
Good stuff. Right, we'll be back right after this with news on our new super fan from Canada.
The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. In association with PremierPunt.com.
On the FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. Sponsored by Premier Punt. All your fantasy Premier League tips in one juicy little podcast. Get in touch at www.fantasyfootballtips.co.
Okay, gents. JP, you'll be happy about this one. You got a mention from this new super fan, and it
nice.
It's a lady I've been aware of for a while actually. I think she's quite big in the Twitter community. She's sort of just getting back into listening to the podcasts, and I think she's just discovered us. She was absolutely raving about us on Twitter, which was really, really nice. It's FPL Cat. I think she's Canadian. So she was a little bit confused when I started talking about orange squash, because I think JP went off to make himself an orange squash halfway through the week, halfway through the podcast last week. I suppose if you've never heard of an orange squash, what would you think?
It would be weird.
It's a bit weird. So I think she was on Google trying to figure it out. But she did say she's listening now back on the old Apple TV pods, loving it, and my rank is even better than this JP guy.
Well, can I just say first and foremost, thank you to Kat. Love Canada. God bless Canada. A beautiful country. We love your support, and I'm glad you're doing better than me, because if you're doing worse, you'd be depressed right now. So it's nice to hear that you're doing well. I hope the tips are helping.
Fantastic. I did reply, and then she came back to me with, "Oh, poor JP. Does he at least have a baby excuse like Quigs?" I replied with far from it. In fact, I think I said that couldn't be further from the truth. I'm not sure what I was kind of implying there, really, or how she took that. But
no.
But anyway, it's nice that these fans are coming in. I mean,
it is.
Cliff, you did mention our good old friend Conor McGregor, didn't you?
Yeah, how's he doing, Mills?
He's been on this week, and I've purposely ignored him. But he's just trying to get attention. He's absolutely just trying to get attention, this guy.
He deserves attention in my eyes.
His picture's disgrace anyway. I mean, he's put at FPL_the source, Quigliano and JP, get your act together.
Oh.
I've not replied. Right. I mean, do you want me to reply? Does it even warrant a response?
Listen, Millsy, it's mind games. That's all it is, mind games. If you watch him on the TV, it's the same. He's trying to get inside your head. Don't let him. Let's block him out.
Okay, I mean, he knows where you live now, JP, so watch out. He's only got to knock on about 25 doors and he'll find you. So, in that rural community that you live in.
A rural community of Penkridge. Yeah.
Okay, should we come on to some questions for this week?
Please.
Okay, fantastic. We have had quite a few. Joseph Kafflish wants to know, for a replacement for Antonio, he's got 1.4 million in the bank, so a midfield replacement. Thoughts on that, gentlemen? I'm just going to give you a bit more context with that. So Antonio at the moment is 6.8, he's got 1.4. So I mean, Cliff, you do the math on that. That's what, 8.2 million?
8.2 million.
It's a good amount of money.
What does 8.2 million get you in FPL these days?
Well, it gets you Pedro Pedro, who we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So Pedro's a good shout.
Pedro would have been my shout, definitely.
Okay, it's an interesting one this week. I think there's lots of people talking about the midfielders this week on Twitter. Last week it was all about the strikers, and I think each week it's these questions are kind of dictated by what's happening. Obviously, lots of people, the terrible news with Coutinho this week. Sorry, he's probably going to be out till January, isn't he? So lots of people looking for the replacement there. He did also go on to say the best United or Arsenal midfielders, not Sanchez or Ozil. So a double question from him there. So best Man United or Arsenal mids, not Sanchez or Ozil.
You'd probably argue, well, maybe Quigliano's shout of Mata. He's quite, it's a hard one really, because I don't think I'd choose a Manchester United midfielder in all honesty. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick him, Mata. And again, I don't know why you'd pick an Arsenal midfielder other than those two. I suppose maybe Walcott, but I think he's too expensive for what he gives you in return. So personally, I'd probably stay clear.
Just had a baby as well, so he might have a few excuses of his own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Quigliano himself. So could that money be redirected somewhere else? For example, Pedro, playing superbly well at the moment. I don't know why I'd go down that route personally. Or even, actually, I want to say Victor Moses. He's looked really good. He scored again against Tottenham. Dangerous winger, gets us forward a lot. There's another option.
Okay, good stuff. Another midfield question, the replacement for Coutinho. So if you've just got Coutinho and you want to make a change there, obviously it depends on the price that you paid for him, and his price is dropping quickly, so advice on that probably would be to make a fairly swift change if you don't want to lose too much money on Coutinho. By far the most transferred out player this week. But thoughts on that in terms of replacement there? Andrew Osborne wants to know that. And Sushant as well. Two questions from the same person. Well, same question from two different people.
I like Eriksen's shout off JP earlier. I think that's a good shout. Similar price, 8.1 Eriksen at the minute. Swansea at home. He's got a fairly tough fixture after Man U away, but then he's got Hull at home again after that. So in the next 3 game weeks, he's got 2 what you'd look at as easier fixtures.
Is there a case to be made for Dele Alli?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
I think he's on his way back into form, isn't it, at the minute?
Yeah, I would say so. And I think he got the assist as well last week, didn't he, against Chelsea?
I also like Sigurdsson still at Swansea. I think everything that Swansea do, it goes through him.
It does. It absolutely does. And his form at the moment is almost better than anyone else's. So it's a hard one to kind of not look at. You've got to take note of these things, I think, at times. So, but again, Spurs away is a tough fixture for them, I think. So.
Yeah, but after that, he's got Sunderland at home, and maybe next week we'll be putting Sigurdsson in.
Okay. Antarctica and FPL. Remember that one, JP? Or was it Cliff that didn't know where the Antarctic was? I can't remember. One of you didn't.
Oh, I know where it is. I'm very good at geography, so that would have been Cliff. That would have been
he
Cliff.
says, Sanchez and Hazard both seem essential from game week 15, but you know my problem. So first of all, Cliff, what's his problem?
We're on game week 14.
Money.
Of course it's money. Of course it's money.
Well,
now I'm going to tell you, I've got both of these in my team, so it can be done.
it's very simple. You need to have some cheap options in midfield, which brings me on to, Mills, which you've obviously left out of the podcast, which I'm going to initiate. Steal of a deal.
You mean steal or no deal?
No, I meant steal of a deal, to be honest.
Well, it steal or no deal is by far a better catchphrase, so...
As much as it angers me to say it is a lot better, so we should go with it.
I actually
well
think
done,
we need a jingle for that as well, I think. So
we do.
And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Anyone out there that gets us a decent jingle for that, I'm going to give you a free premium membership. Lifetime premium membership, £49 value.
Wow.
So send them in to support at fantasyfootballtips.co. And the best one, we'll get it on air next week. So if the feature returns, that is. So remind us how this works, JP. Steal or no deal?
Yeah, so basically I present you with a very cheap player who could still potentially score points, not every week, but potentially some weeks, which allows you to put in a more expensive player. So in this scenario, we've had a very good question about Hazard and Sanchez and it being financially difficult. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to present you with this option. How about you take out kind of one of your midfielders for a very cheap option. My steal or no deal this week is Phillips at West Brom. Matty Phillips.
Yeah.
Looks like a good player. Is it 5.2 million he is?
It's around that, yeah. I mean,
I think it's 5.2.
I called him out as the must-have player of the week last week.
Well, there we go.
Members, so, yeah.
5.3, JP.
5.3, I was close. So you put him in,
Okay.
which surely frees up some money. I mean, I'm going to do it for Coutinho, for example. Well, Coutinho's 8.2, isn't he? So, you've got 2.9 million there. That would free you up, maybe, or hopefully, the option of having a more expensive midfielder, allowing you to have a couple of really pricey midfielders. Your thoughts, Mills?
Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it, really? Because obviously you're going to take Coutinho out.
Yeah.
So what's the game again, mate?
It's steal or no deal. Steal or no deal.
No, but like what? What are you asking me to? Like, obviously, you're going to take Coutinho out. So, what are you asking me?
I'm asking you what your thoughts are on my decision to take.
Well, definitely take Coutinho out, mate.
So
Well,
the
obviously,
aim of this game is for you to present a cheap midfielder or cheap player, should I say, and then our thoughts.
correct.
And then
Okay.
to take a. Okay, so let's just get this right.
It's a work in progress.
Okay. Again, I'm
Rome
so glad
wasn't
we
built in a
worked
day.
these out on air.
Yeah.
We've got an expensive midfielder and we've got a cheap midfielder, and what we want to sort of say is it worth taking the steal option, which is the cheap one, so we can sort of facilitate a deal elsewhere for a more expensive?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Got it on the head. Hit the nail on the head.
So what are you asking me?
I'm asking you, is it wise to, obviously, I mean, Coutinho's an obvious option, so I was just using that as an example. Is it wise, let's say, if you've got Coutinho, take him out, put in a really cheap midfielder like Matty Phillips, which could allow someone like Antarctica to put in Hazard and Sanchez? Is that a wise decision?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all we needed to hear. Well, listen, that's what the people come in for, Millsy. They come in for tips, and that's a tip.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really convoluted way of getting to a tip, but okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was. It was like going
tip.
through a maze.
JP, now we know that it's a good idea to put a cheap midfielder in. What will happen on next week's pod?
Well, I'll provide you with another option of a cheaper
Another
player.
steal. Oh.
Absolutely.
So you're just going to keep finding these
Now,
steals?
yeah, absolutely. And I did it. I proved it last week. I said MacArthur, 5.0 million, got himself an assist. 6 points, 6 points out of £5 million. That is decent return. And it allowed me to put in Sanchez as well as another midfielder.
Yeah, I mean, I think Sanchez does. He's got to go in there, hasn't he? Now he's just proved it again. Right, gents, we're coming towards the end of the standard pod. We're going to go into podcast extra in a minute, where we're going to be talking about Sergio Aguero, my decision to drop him for this week. We'll be talking our captain picks, and we've got a couple more questions from the fans as well. If you're not a premium member, you need to head to fantasyfootballtips.co and sign up for a premium membership. It's only £12 for 12 months of full unadulterated access. We are running a competition on fantasyfootballtips.co at the moment as well, where you can win a premium membership, a lifetime membership. So, I'm giving it from all angles. I can't do any more than this, gents.
No, I mean, that is an incredible deal.
So feel free, head to fantasyfootballtips.co and enter the comp. We'll be back right after this with the podcast extra.
It's time to go deep. It's time for the podcast extra.
In a week, so I think maybe Quigliano needs to give Sushant an apology there, maybe. I don't know.
Perhaps. We will see. Right, let's get on with these tips. JP. I knew he'd gone. I heard it drop out.
JP, where you gone?
That's why I bloody hell, what a joker.
Number 1 for FPL.
Okay, let's carry
Don't
on.
get wet so low. My signal's horrendous. Hang on. Let me open this door. I know that helps. Go on, him. Sorry, where were we? Did you have to
Right,
stop?
I'm just about to come to you for some tips. Of course we had to stop, mate. We haven't padded for 3 minutes.
Sorry, boys.
Okay.